This is the silent paradox of modern life. On the outside, everything seems to be working. Career, achievements, routine. But on the inside, something essential begins to fade. And the strangest part? It isn't always sadness. Sometimes it's simply emptiness. There is a kind of collapse that doesn't happen with screams or explosions, but with silence. An invisible exhaustion that doesn't show up on medical exams, yet changes everything internally. And the most unsettling part? It can strike precisely those who did everything right. What if what we call depression is not merely a chemical malfunction, but a profound call for change? An internal system saying, this way, it's no longer possible. Why do some people collapse even after achieving success? What lies behind the feeling that nothing makes sense? How do we deal with a kind of pain that does not ask for immediate cure, but for listening and reconnection? Before answering, we need to return to the story of those who survived extreme suffering and discovered that meaning can be the difference between giving up and enduring. The deepest levels of human experience, there is a fundamental connection between purpose and psychological well-being. This is not merely philosophical talk. It was explored by Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who lived through the peak of human loss in the 20th century and observed something powerful. What truly destroys a person is not suffering itself, but suffering without meaning. Frankl wrote that even under the most extreme conditions, those who found some form of meaning, however small, were able to endure in remarkable ways. The core idea is that a sense of meaning acts as an internal foundation that allows us to pass through difficult phases. Today, many people live lives that look right from the outside. Education completed, stable jobs, polished social media profiles. Yet internally, the individual may feel a void that is difficult to name. Not intense sadness or immediate despair, but something closer to a blackout of the sense of self. Externally, everything seems fine. Internally, everything feels dimmed. This existential blackout is not easily measured through exams or tests. It is felt, and this is what many people call depression. Not simply sadness, but the sense that life has lost its brightness because personal meaning has collapsed. A successful executive may accumulate awards and status and still feel, none of this is who I am. A talented artist may create extraordinary work and yet feel that their own heart is empty. These are cases where external success fails to resonate with the internal world. Depression, in this sense, can be understood as a signal that we have drifted away from an essential part of ourselves, and that something within is asking for attention, revision, and reconnection. The ancient Stoics, thinkers such as Epictetus, explored an idea that still resonates today. It is not events themselves that disturb us, but how we interpret them. Imagine standing in a fast-moving river. If you swim against the current continuously, your body becomes exhausted. But if you learn how to float and work with the force of the current, the effort decreases. Tension arises when we refuse to accept what we cannot change. In the modern world, many people internally resist the inevitable difficulties of life. Loss, transitions, uncertainty, unmet expectations. This resistance can turn into deep psychological wear, which some identify as depression. But perhaps it is not merely a chemical problem. Perhaps it is the signal of a mind exhausted from fighting what cannot be overcome. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." When we interpret everything as a threat or a failure, we expend enormous energy trying to control the uncontrollable. Pain enters not only through what happened, but through our refusal, our insistence that reality should be other than it is. Stoic philosophy does not deny pain. Instead, it invites us to observe it with curiosity and discernment. It asks us to question, what here is truly under my control, and what lies beyond it? As we stop insisting on controlling the uncontrollable, we create space to see difficulty as part of the human experience, not as something that must be immediately erased. There are moments when the body and mind begin to show signs of exhaustion, not because something is broken, but because the life a person is living no longer reflects who they truly are internally. It is as if an essential part of the self says, I can no longer continue this way. This does not mean the person is weak, nor that there is something fundamentally wrong with their brain. It means that something inside is asking for attention. Some psychologists refer to this as deep self-sabotage, not in the simplistic sense of actively trying to ruin one's life, but as an internal refusal to continue sustaining what no longer makes sense. Imagine an operating system running incompatible programs. It begins to crash, freeze, and send alerts. The machine is not sick. It is signaling that the code needs revision, that the system requires an update to function with greater internal integrity. In many real cases, people who went through severe depressive episodes later realized that the experience was a call to change direction. A young person who studied for years toward a conventional career but felt a deep emptiness may discover alignment with a different purpose. A professional who accumulated external achievements yet felt disconnected from herself may reorganize her life around values that genuinely resonate. In this framework, depression can be understood as a form of psychic defense. Not an enemy, but a signal that the internal software requires attention, refinement, and a reallocation of energy towards something that better represents who that person truly is. The human journey unfolds in cycles. We begin a phase, learn, change, and then move into another. Sometimes transitions are smooth. At other times, they are marked by a profound inner silence, a void between who we were and who we have not yet become. Carl Jung, one of the great thinkers of depth psychology, described depression with a powerful image. Depression is like a woman dressed in black. If she appears, do not send her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, and listen to what she has to say. This metaphor invites us not to fight the experience, but to understand it as part of an inner transformation. Consider the metamorphosis of a butterfly. Before it can fly, it must remain inside the chrysalis. In that stage, everything appears still. Nothing seems to be happening. Yet within that stillness, transformation is underway. Depression can resemble this silent phase before transformation, when the old has not yet fully died and the new has not yet emerged. This space between identities is painful because it requires the release of old aspects of the self, expectations, patterns, former ways of succeeding or pleasing, while clarity about who one is becoming has not yet formed. This creates inner tension that may manifest as sadness, apathy, or confusion. But this experience is not weakness. It is a sign that the individual is in transition, in a space where nothing new can be born until what no longer serves has been released. What if, instead of fighting pain, we tried to understand it? What if depression were not a sentence to be silenced, but an invitation to listen deeply to ourselves? Like a red warning light on a car's dashboard, psychological pain may be signaling that something inside requires careful attention. We are not saying that suffering does not exist. It does, and it is real. But what we do with that suffering can transform how we live the next phase of our lives. The value may lie in listening to what this symptom is trying to tell us. Which part of me is asking for change? Which life was I maintaining out of habit, without realizing it no longer serves me? What within me is dying? And what is trying to be born? What if your pain is not your sentence, but the doorway to your most authentic self?